Welcome to the Encouragement for Real Life podcast. I'm Julie Lefebure, your host. Life is remarkable, sometimes raw, and always real. And some days we could use a little extra encouragement for our real lives. Here you'll find that, along with personal life-impacting stories, helpful life hacks, timely inspiration, biblical insight, and a fresh perspective. The Encouragement for Real Life podcast equips you to be a light in this world and to shine bright wherever God has you. I'm glad you're here today. Today on the podcast, you are in for a very special treat. It's our guest episode for the month, and I have been wanting to have this guest on for, quite a while now. And for one reason or another, it just never worked out. Until today, until now. Well, yes, it is a very special episode because number one, the guest who is joining me, and number two, that it is our first guest who is a male, and number three, it's the first guest that we recorded here in my office that he was right next to me. So it's kind of a big day, kind of an exciting day. So yes, the guest for this month, my special guest, is none other than my wonderful husband, Bill Lefebure. Now, Bill is kind of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy who doesn't like to be in the spotlight a whole lot, but I think that you will agree with me that he shined in this episode, and he said some words that I think will impact a lot of us. Yeah, I think it's one of those episodes where there's just a lot of wisdom and a lot of truth, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. We discuss our life, our love, our imperfect marriage. We discussed how we keep showing up for one another, even when we don't feel like it. And we offer some encouragement to young couples, to couples our age. And Bill even talks about his perspective on that day that he was in that bicycle accident. And I reference this bicycle accident in chapter 1 of my book, Right Now Matters, and how God saved Bill's life that day. So you get to hear a bit of his perspective, and it's kind of emotional. And I think you're really going to glean some wisdom and encouragement from that today, too. I never tire of hearing the story of how God spared his life that day. I will continue to share that forever and ever and ever. So I'm excited today to share with you who I call my love of a lifetime. And so, without further delay, let's get into this episode. Welcome to the Encouragement for Real Life podcast. On the podcast with me is our very first male that we've ever had on the podcast, and the very first in person that we have had on the podcast, my husband, Bill Lefebure.
Hello.
Bill, glad you're here.
Welcome.
This is going to be fun. When my husband and I just sat down here, he didn't realize it was going to be video. He just thought it was going to be audio. So that was a surprise, and I think he really wanted to back out, but I just thank you for being on here with me today. Bill and I have been married for how many years? Do you know?
Let's see. It'll be 34 this year?
33.
33.
Yeah. Yeah, we got married in 1992, young and in love, and we're still maybe not young at heart, but we're still in love. Bill, anything you want to share about you?
Just grew up in eastern Iowa, just down the road from Julie, and I guess our paths crossed, and here we are today. So.
Yeah. But we never knew each other growing up, which is, we live in such a small area here in Iowa, but my brother introduced us back in 1991. 1990? Doesn't matter. Long time ago. Anyway, we've been empty nesters for 10 years, and I realized just this last week that our son graduated from high school 10 years ago this year.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah, it is hard to believe.
Yeah.
So what have we done? Because I know there's women who, maybe you are one of these women who are facing an empty nest this coming year, or maybe you're already an empty nest person, empty nester. What have we done to help our empty nest seem less empty?
The one thing, I guess, it was a coworker at work a few years ago. She asked that same question because she knew that we were empty nesters. And I suggested, since you are not yet, get a hobby or something that you're both interested in. Get that if you have the opportunity prior to being empty nesters. Figure out a little foresight on what you may want to do together when you have that extra time on your hands instead of sitting on the couch and looking at your phones or whatever, and maybe you enjoy that. We were able to find a hobby that we started doing, and then I guess the transition into the empty nest, we just dived into that a little bit more. We were able to spend more time with that and didn't feel regrets leaving the house, leaving the kids or something like that. That time we were able to invest wholeheartedly. So
Yeah. So what was that hobby?
Biking.
Yeah. Yeah, we took on, it was 2013, 14 when we started. When you started way before I did, but 14. When I started, 14, we started doing this together, bicycling. And we had it 3.
Oh, no, it was actually, I had originally biked back pre-marriage and then got married. Used to go on Ragbri, which is a ride across Iowa every summer. A good friend got me involved in that. But anyway, once I got married and kids, I just didn't have the time to dedicate to that. So the bike hung in the garage for quite a few years, and then it was 2012, I believe. I got it back down, refurbished it, and went on Ragbri, and just wanted to get active or whatever. And that same summer, I had found a tandem online for $300. It was a 1984.
Oh, 1984.
Burley
I thought it was
tandem.
1983.
And Julie thought I was nuts for getting it, but I thought maybe we could go biking together sometime. And I think we might have got out once or maybe twice that year on that.
Yeah, and then that very next summer, Bill got hit by a car on his bicycle. And I wrote about it in, I think, chapter 1 of my book, Right Now Matters, and how that kind of changed our lives in that season. And then Bill asked me if I would consider riding that 1984 Burley bicycle on Ragbri that following year. And so, we've been tandem bicycling ever since. So he's the captain and I'm what's called the stoker in the back. It's just better that way, that he's leading and I follow. And I get to take the photos and I get to be the extra set of eyes and pedal. That's all I do. And he does everything else. The steering, the shifting, the guiding, whatever. What else do you do? You run the music sometimes, most of the time. Yeah. So that's been our hobby, is tandem bicycling. And thankfully, when Bill got hit by that car, he's still here today because it could have been entirely different. If he would have flown to the left instead of to the right, he probably wouldn't be here today after getting hit from behind. Grateful for that. Our lives would have been completely different. So we're very thankful to God for that.
I'd have to say that you always hear this, but in those moments when you think that end is near, you're not thinking about money or anything else. My cell phone was probably about 20 feet away, and I'm just thinking, I'm done. Breath got knocked out of me, and so it was just my family that was going through my mind. So there's a lot of truth to that. So put your resources to the ones you love.
That's so true.
Time or whatever. So.
Yeah. We hear that all the time. Yeah, that we're not going to think about, I wish I would have worked more. I wish I would have spent more time at the office. I wish I would have spent more time doing my hobbies. No, it's in those moments when we think, and I don't know this because I've never experienced that, but you just come to the reality of truly what's important in our lives when we're faced with a life or death situation.
Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah. So on thinking about bicycling, how has that impacted our marriage, do you think? And even our faith lives? How do you think?
I don't know. When I look back on it, I think it just mimics a relationship because when we first got on it, it's a team effort. when first bought the first one. We're on our third tandem, upgrade every time. But the guy that I bought it from, he asked, "Hey, are you married?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Whichever way your marriage is going, this tandem will get you there quicker." That put a little seed in my mind, and I read a little book about tandem biking, and it talked about the stoker and the captain. And in there is a little clip that said, "The stoker's always right." And it made me think that, okay, just be quiet, listen. And there's a lot of times where we're pedaling along, and that's that extra set of eyes that Julie mentioned, that we're going along and she'll see something out of the corner of her eye and say something. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks for mentioning that, or stop ahead, or for whatever, see something on the road that I may not see or whatever, that we're both going the same direction. So just being that listening part of, if you compare it to a relationship, that listening part where I'm not worried about trying to say what I think or whatever, but before that, be open to what partner says. And then there's also a big learning curve on just how to go in the same direction, pedaling, stopping, turning, all that. It just took some growth and just being patient with each other. So that the whole process of that, I think, mimics a relationship.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. You're right. And it was not easy. Holy cow. In the beginning, I think I remember one time get me off this bike. It was just not coming easy for me. And I was the one that likes to be in control, and I really had to just surrender. That was a big part that kind of mimicked my faith, that I really had to surrender to Bill and to lead me on that bike, because I was used to doing my own thing. I'm independent, and my parents taught me to be that way, and yet I really had to just let go of control, kind of with our faith too. It's easier when we let go instead of thinking that we have to be in control. But I remember that time of just get me off this bike, and I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. It was really uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable as in biking, but uncomfortable as in letting go of the control. We finally figured it out, and we have a lot of fun on that tandem.
Yeah,
we do. Yeah. So we can't do it in the winter in Iowa. I guess we could, but we're fair weather riders.
Yeah.
Which is okay. Yeah. Also, some people may look at us and think, gosh, you guys have the perfect marriage. We don't. No, I don't think any marriage is perfect, but we've had some really rough seasons, really rough circumstances. There were, just a lot of different things that our marriage has faced, some mistakes that we've made, but God has redeemed our marriage. God has been so faithful. So what have we done to get through the hard times? What do you see from your perspective, what we've done?
Prayer and patience, I think. It's probably two big things to get through stuff. And then always keeping in mind that we're on the same team. Mm-hmm. It's easy to think that I'm alone in whatever's going on. And then I guess when you find your partner that seems to be like with that attitude, like I'm on an island, be the one to open up and have that compassion to say, okay, instead of putting up a wall. It's so easy to build a wall when you get going, I guess. Go back to biking reference, but we're biking, and not every time on the bike is a happy, joyous experience. No. But we were down in Iowa City going along and trying to navigate on a trail we hadn't been on, so I'm trying to figure out which way to go. And Julie, the type A personality that she has sometimes, that wanting to say we need to be doing this or that, and we stop quick. And then I'm like, oh, okay, need to go up over here. So I take off again, and I'm going. And I get up to a stoplight, and I stop. And then all of a sudden I look back, and Julie's not on the bike. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should keep pedaling, because when I go back, hopefully she didn't fall off. But I didn't feel that. I'm like, I'm going to be probably 10 pounds lighter on my rear end when I get back to her. And I pedal back, and here she's walking along, and she wasn't smiling. And I get turned around, and she hops back on, and I can't exactly verbatim say the conversation at that point, but we learned some lessons about each other at that point. I guess, and you find yourself in that situation that you're on an island or on your own rowboat going one direction, another person hopped off, turn around, pick them back up. Yeah. We did make it to our destination, so it all ended well.
Yeah.
And we laugh about it now, but
Yeah.
somebody was a little hot at that point that day, and it wasn't the weather. So.
No, and it was warm that day. But just to clarify, yeah, we just paused for a moment to get a drink of water. And so when we do, I hop off the bike in the back because it's not comfortable to sit there. Bill can put his feet down, but we clipped in. We have shoes that clip into our pedals, and so it's just safer that way. So anyway, I always just clip out and I hop off. Well, he didn't realize that I had hopped off. And I could not believe it when he took off. Like, what is he doing? And I am yelling and I'm raising my arms. I'm flapping I'm like, oh my gosh. And yeah, he just kept going. I'm like, sooner or later he's going to figure out that I'm not on the bike. But I don't know how you could not have known I was not on the bike.
Must have been a good song on the radio.
Yeah. You can hear me because we listen to music when we bike. But yeah, like you said, we can laugh about it now. But I was pretty irritated, to say the least, that you forgot me. That helpless feeling. Maybe you've never felt helpless and hopeless, but man, I'm like, oh my goodness, what if he never figures out that I'm not on the back of the bike and I'm here forever, stuck? Anyway, and I would echo that prayer and patience in any relationship, just that remembering of that this person's human, no one's perfect, yet God desires for us to be in union with each other, and the enemy of our souls would really like to tear relationships apart and do the things that cause division between couples. And we just know the schemes of him now. Maybe we didn't know in every season of our marriage, but after we've experienced them, we know his schemes and we know that we're a team. And also, like you said, we are a team, and our friends, she has a embroidery screen printing business, and she made us shirts that say Team Lefebure for our biking times, and it's true. That's who we are, Team Lefebure. So think of your spouse as a team member instead of someone else, but
yeah,
I think that really helps me. Anyway, we're on the same team. One thing I think that's been a very fun thing, we used to do this when the kids were young and even maybe when the kids were in high school, I don't know, but now our kids are grown and we have grandkids, two grandsons, and we have resurrected these Friday night date nights. And I just think that they're fun. Just because we're older and we don't maybe date each other like we used to date each other, we've gotten back in the habit of doing that. What do you think about these? It was your kind of idea, wasn't it, to start these Friday night date nights?
Probably a combination.
Yeah.
I mean, we do things like whether it's a concert or something like that or theater that I get tickets. I'd have them be bought a few months out thinking, okay, we got something planned, but then Julie's, okay, let's go do something, and I'm thinking this got to be a surprise, then let the surprise out, but it's probably not as frequent as what we probably could be doing as a couple. So doing the weekly thing, trying to, whether it could be pretty minuscule or just getting out of the house together, Costco run sometimes, but dinner out or something like that. And then, but yeah, just so we dedicate a little time each week to connecting.
What's been your favorite? Do you have a favorite Friday night date night that we've done recently? I know my favorite.
What's that?
It was in the fall, and it was a full moon, and did you find it, or did I find it? There was in one of the local parks and trails, was it in December or November? It might have been November.
Yeah.
They had a full moon evening walk where part of the trail was lit up by, what do you call those things?
Candle.
Little candle, like lanterns, only they're
Luminaires.
Luminaires, yeah. Luminaires. Anyway, it was such a beautiful night. So we went hiking. Not really hiking, it was on a trail. But that was so fun. And it was just spur of the moment. We just found it like an hour before we were going to leave. And then we went and had a Mexican meal afterwards. It was just so refreshing. Didn't have to spend a lot of money. Sometimes it's just nice when you don't have to spend a lot of money to go on a date and just enjoy each other's company. We could talk and hold hands and walk, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And I also like the one in Amana. We went to Amana to the the Fest Hall barn, which had the Tannenbaum Forest during Christmas, and that was fun.
Yeah, it was just good timing because they had the band there, and then some carolers rolled in. So I don't know. Normally, it's probably just walk through, but
Yeah.
just the moment that we were there, it was just neat. So
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Any of your favorite that you can think of?
probably like that candlelit night or moonlit one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the one time we were coming home and then we stopped
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was dark and you could see in the distance some a little bit in the skyline, but you as far as the northern lights, but through the camera they show up. So we're
Yeah.
taking pictures of the northern lights on the way home.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So we like to still date each other. So that's fun. That might be a fun thing to do if you are married, or even if you're not married. It'd be fun to grab some girls and do some nights out like that with the girls. So yeah, we've done some of that. Let's talk about our faith. How has our faith impacted our marriage?
Say probably if I didn't have my faith, there may not be sitting right next to Julie right now. So for what we've gone through, it just it's that foundation that that true north, I guess you'd call that. Not that we've had knockout dragouts at all, but it just at the end of the day, if we're in disagreement, it's not the end of the world, and there's always tomorrow. And putting God first has kept that in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. That verse in Ecclesiastes about a cord of 3 strands cannot be easily broken. I will include that in the show notes so you know what I'm talking about. It's in Ecclesiastes, but I don't know the chapter and the verse. But I just know that we committed to keeping God in the center of our marriage, and that we haven't always done that really well. I know I haven't done that always very well, but I would agree with you that we probably wouldn't be married today if it wasn't for our faith. We probably would have gone our separate ways, but God has knit our hearts together and has kept us together, even when there were probably seasons when we were questioning if that's what we're supposed to be doing and what does God have for us, what's going on, and, just questioning things. But I'm grateful that God has just kept us, Jesus has kept us centered on him. We go to church together on Sundays. Bill works a lot of hours, but when he's not working on Sundays, that's always important. We pray together in the mornings before Bill leaves for work, because he always leaves the house before I do, and that's been a key thing, and I think that's important for us to pray together. So, yeah, I think that faith is the backbone of our relationship, faith in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our kids are so important to us. We have 2 children and 2 in-laws. I don't know how to say that, but we have a daughter-in-law and a son-in-law. And we have 2 grandsons. And we all live within, 20 minutes of each other, which is another huge blessing. How do we continue to grow our relationship with our kids and grandkids? Or what's your favorite thing that we do to keep that relationship with them? Because we want to spend as much time with them as we possibly can.
I think for the most part, you especially with watching the grandkids during the week, we're connecting with them quite often, whether it's on the phone or in person. Yeah. Zach's great with connecting, calling you, and sometimes when put that on speakerphone, just trying to stay connected with them, keep up with their lives, and just encouraging them as well. That's one of the great things in life, is having a child and watching them grow up. And it's also tough, but to be able to watch them leave the nest, as they say, and go strike it out on their own and just let go. But we're back here prayer warriors for them, but it's just neat to watch somebody else unfold that you put so much time into, and see how great they're doing, and be a resource for if they have questions. I know they both reach out and offer if we need any help. They're always there, so we just appreciate them so much.
Yeah. I always like to try to get all of us together. So like any kind of holidays, we always try to get together. I'd love to do better at this, to have a family meal once a week, which I know would be tough, but even just once a month. We probably do that, but
probably not far off.
Yeah.
Monthly getting together for a meal.
Yeah. So we just love our time with them. Any moment we can get with them, we just cherish it. So also, I would think it'd be important, since we've had some years under our belt in our marriage, 32 years, what's a piece of advice that we could give to someone like a young couple today that really helped us when we were a younger couple, or lessons that we learned from Is there anything that you can think of?
Just always remember you're on the same team. And communication. It's easy to get frustrated, or even if something beyond your control happens that impacts one of you. It's easy for whoever's getting slammed with life to, depending on the type of person, they could go quiet, but even don't let that put a wall in between. Be there in whatever way you can support each other.
Yeah.
So communication, and even just sitting next to them in those moments through whatever they need. It's easy to be still caught up in your life and everything, but making them a priority so that time is spent building that relationship through both good and tough times.
Yeah, because we lost Dad when we were a pretty young couple. The kids were young. So that was, and life just comes barreling at you and you just aren't prepared for it. You were there for me during all that hard stuff. Both of Bill's parents are still with us, and we're grateful for that. But both my parents are not. And being on the other end of that, I've not experienced that, of how to support a spouse through a death like that. But you were a rock for me in both situations and really helped me through that. But yeah, that communication is key. And again, I think if I would have known this as a younger couple, to keep God first, to keep your husband second, and then the kids, because it's easy to put the kids ahead of your spouse. And I think I did that a lot when the kids were home. And so that's one piece of advice I would have for us as women, is to always put your spouse before your kids, even though their kids are important. But I think that's going to be the relationship that you're going through with you even after the kids are gone. So that's one thing that I probably could have done a better job at when our kids were young. And what's a piece of advice that we would have for couples our age? Probably the same kind of advice.
Yeah. It's, I guess, going into the empty nest phase and transition. I guess that's probably a big thing. And then grandkids, in a way, the grandkids can do the same thing as kids, where you may feel like number two again, but then they're such a blessing, though. Yeah, no, it's neat.
They are.
Yeah, so I guess we realize how much energy we used to have when they're around. They go, so.
You do. We know why God gives us the opportunity to have kids when we're young, because they're here for 2 days and we're wiped out at the end of the second day. But we wouldn't change it for anything, because it's just the best thing.
Yeah.
It is the best thing. And the sweetest things that come out of their mouths. And yeah. And maybe you're a grandparent, maybe you're not, but it's just so important to just continue to connect with each other. Find a way to connect with your spouse some way, somehow. Find something you can do together that you enjoy. Don't let one person go one way and you go the other way. Just continue to try to be on the same page. And life isn't perfect, but it's good. And we're grateful for where God has us right now in this life, this moment. So we'll begin to wrap things up. Is there anything else that is on your heart that you could encourage a listener with today?
I don't know, just keep faith as your foundation to get you through. At church, today's message, it was a reality check on faith and what gets you through the tough times, and you got the earthly things that you have hope in and all that, but when it comes to the hope and faith and God led, that's a rock, and where all else is on sand. When life gets tough, you can tell that firm foundation gives you peace. It doesn't make things that much easier. You still got to go through the stuff or whatever life throws at you, but there's a sense of peace or calmness that faith and hope and trust in God has, that gets you through, just in a way that if you didn't, you'd be going crazy.
Yeah, that's so true. Thanks for being on the podcast with me today.
You're welcome.
Even though you didn't realize it was going to be video, but you're a trooper. I don't know what I'd do without him. Bill has been my my support in every area of life. He continues to encourage me in ministry and to continue seeking the Lord. And when I wig out on different things, he continues to bring me back. And he's a behind the scenes guy. But yeah, I just can't imagine my life without him. So thank you for being.
Reminds me of back when you were in Mary Kay as a director and got recognized or whatever, and I had to do a little speech, and I compared myself to a snowplow that when things were tough, I was out there clearing the road or whatever, trying to do what I can, but when things were nice and sunny and a clear road, get out of the way, I'm slowing you down. So yeah, just here to support you.
Thank you. So thank you for joining us today and being here on the podcast. And I hope that you enjoyed just a little bit of this to be able to understand the guy who I do life with and get to meet him a little bit, and also just to be encouraged today. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Take care.
I may be partial, but I believe that my husband is one incredible guy, and I'm so grateful to God for him. You know, one thing that I don't get to share very often about Bill is that one thing I really appreciate is that he does not ever talk about anyone negatively. He doesn't. He doesn't ever talk about someone behind their back. I rarely have ever heard that ever in our 32 years of marriage. And I'm just so grateful that he is the way he is. So, by the way, I think it's just good to think about who are we grateful for more often than we do. So who are you grateful for today? I invite you to let that person know just how grateful you are for him or her. And I need to do a better job of that too. So just kind of a good thing to remember every now and then. But what impacted you through listening to our conversation today? Is there anything specific that you're going to take with you and apply to your own life or to your marriage or to your relationships? You know, I know that relationships take time and effort, right? I mean, yeah, they take some work, right? And some days it's just not so easy to keep our relationships growing and strong. If you're in a relationship today, maybe one that's struggling, I just want to encourage you to take that relationship to God. You know, this is something that Bill and I have learned through our marriage over the years, and it's made all the difference for us. And it's made all the difference in our relationships with others as well. So I encourage you to do that today. You know, this is one area that I am offering in this new offering that I am doing soon. It's coming out very soon, but personalized mentoring for you. Would you welcome a trusted friend who could guide you and walk alongside of you in all sorts of areas of life? The things that God has us prospering in, wants to grow us in, wants to mentor us through, including our relationships. And maybe you're feeling stuck or stagnant in your life right now or in your faith. Well, I'm going to be offering very soon the opportunity to work with me one-on-one, to refresh your faith, to renew your mindset, and to embrace the abundant life that Jesus came to give you. It's waiting for you, and I'll share more very soon. Hold tight, it's coming very soon. But just know that a vibrant, exciting, faith-filled life is waiting just for you right around the corner. And it has nothing to do with the things of this world, but everything to do with the things of God. So I can't wait to share more with you. Who in your life could use some encouragement today? Well, I encourage you to forward this to her. Maybe there might be something in here that she just needs to hear. And I encourage you also to just pause today and leave a rating and a review from wherever you're listening from. That makes all the difference. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And maybe you're watching on YouTube. Remember, we are on YouTube, and you can catch us there in video form. We're excited about that as well. So, stay encouraged today, friends. Stay encouraged in this next week. I'm so glad you tuned in today. Thanks for being here, and God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You can find more at julielefebure.com. And until next time, stay encouraged.